We're back with another e-bike video, guys. The Scott Genius 910 Eride. This bike has definitely made an impression on all of us during our e-bike roundup. It's one of the best riding bikes out of the bunch. We really like a lot of features about it. A lot of the things of how it rides. However, it is also a bike that has some faults and a couple of big things that we really didn't get along with, and those are what held it back from being a little bit higher placed in our overall vote. So first off, we'll get into it. The bike retails for $64.99. It's 150 millimeters of travel front and rear, and it's not the best looking. It has the big bulky squared up down tube that kind of indicates the old generation of e-bikes. In our opinion, the Norcos are the future. Having integrated nice rounded slimmer tubes are going to be what e-bikes are going to change into as battery everything evolves. And that initial impression of seeing the Scott does make it look a little bit dated. So aesthetically, it drew some points back out of the overall contention. Moving into another area that we did not like was the TwinLoc dropper post kind of handlebar ergonomic area. That proved to be probably one of the biggest issues for us, because once you're on the bike, you don't care what it looks like. However, when you're riding it, we didn't realize how often we have changed the post height and shift gears at the same time. The TwinLoc lever is on your left, the dropper post is on your right, which is obviously where your rear brake and shifting is. So, a lot of times we'd come into a big kind of a G-out drop, and then there'd be an uphill climb out of a turn, and we would want to change gears, raise and lower the seat all at the same time, and you kind of had to make a decision of, do I want to drop my seat post or raise my post or shift gears? And it wasn't both, because you're using the brake and having to figure out which one's more important. And in our opinion, honestly, you don't need TwinLoc on an e-bike because you've got a motor to help boost you up the hills. So having the efficiency of a suspension lockout kind of just seems unnecessary in our opinion. But it's Scott, and they like the TwinLoc and efficiency, I guess. So the last complaint we had about the Scott is their wheel spec. It's their Synchros wheels. We have kind of destroyed them relatively quickly. After only about maybe 6 or 7 rides, they're toast. They still spin round. They still actually hold air in the tire after a little bit of work, but spending that much on a bike and having wheels go out on you is not ideal. So those are kind of the 3 reasons that it's not a little bit higher. It's still in our top 4 or 5 out of the 10 e-bikes, and that purely pertains to the on-trail performance, which we'll get into now. So what do we like about the Scott so much? I would say the 2 biggest things are the power out of the motor and the suspension feel. It's an incredibly smooth and supple bike. The suspension feel is probably the closest to the Norco of all the other bikes we tested. It's very light. It smooths out the trail nicely without being overly harsh. There wasn't a ton of feedback into the feet. It didn't blow through the travel. It was efficient and very plush. It was an awesome bike to ride, to be honest. We really liked the suspension feel. 150 mil front and rear, and very capable. So I mean, we were able to take it on 30-mile kind of mellower XC rides that had a few fun rocky downhills to burly days where we'd be just repeating downhill trails and just pedaling up the shuttle road and bombing downhills. And it was equally at home in both type of trail conditions and everything in between. So that's definitely a strong suit of the bike, is its riding capabilities. The power while pedaling was really impressive also. We emailed Scott asking him if they kind of hopped it up for us. Sometimes we assume a brand might tweak a stock bike to give it a little better impression, but They said it was gone over, they just ensured everything was right and sent it to us. So it's out of the box, and it felt like it had way more juice than the other bikes. It was kind of crazy when we'd be climbing up fire roads all side by side. It seemed like the Scott was always at the front of the pack. We also had kind of a, you know, like a little drag race test where we'd all take turns on each bike, sit down, see who could get up to 20 miles an hour the fastest, and then, you know, starting about 15 feet before a steep hill and sit down pedal into the hill and up the base. And the Scott was definitely one of the quickest bikes in both tests, and had a highest top speed when we reached the crest of that little hill. So it was really interesting. It's a Shimano Steps motor, and you know, which was what a lot of the bikes had. And it wasn't that the battery size was that much different. I believe it was a 500 watt hour battery, so it wasn't even the largest in the group, but something about how that bike was tuned. You know, the Scott said that they took time working with Shimano to create kind of some custom points in the curve of and power band of that motor, and it seems like they really succeeded, because that bike kills it when it comes to pedaling and climbing efficiency and speed. So that's where we're at with the Scott, guys. Overall, it is a really great riding, fast pedaling, just super enjoyable e-bike. Wheel spec is a little bit of a concern. The TwinLoc dropper post cockpit setup is an issue for us, and we don't love the way it looks. So those are kind of the three reasons that knocked it down from being a little higher in our overall, you know, e-bike roundup comparison. But if you're basing it purely off trail performance, the bike is a pretty solid rider. Had a blast on it, so props to Scott. We hope they evolve even more in the future, making it look a little better, and maybe ditch the TwinLoc and move the dropper post to the other side. But thanks, guys, for the opportunity to test that bike. We loved it, and thank you for watching the video. Visit theloamwolf.com to see the full detailed review on the bike, as well as more. And please subscribe to our video channel, as we're going to have a lot more reviews coming. And feel free to check out our Patreon page, where we're going to have more behind the scenes access to our videos and testing and the making of our e-bike roundup, plus more. Thanks a lot, guys. See you on the trails.